You've got some Republicans saying we shouldn't raise the minimum wage because they've said this because, well, it just helps young people. Now, first of all, I think it's pretty good to help young people. Well, I don't know what's wrong with helping young people. I mean, the folks who say that, probably, next thing you know, they'll say, "Get off my lawn."
Now, that was the president in Ann Arbor today in Michigan, ramping up his push on the subject of minimum wage. President noting that minimum wage boost would help the economy, despite what some critics have suggested, and he played on the concerns over inequality, saying nobody should work a 40-hour work week and still live in poverty. And that point was hammered home by a new study from a group working on behalf of low-income Americans. For the average American to afford the rent on a market cost two-bedroom apartment here, they need to earn about nearly $19 an hour here and work 40 hours a week. That's more than 2.5 times the current minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. But why don't we put this in local terms here? Rents in our area are a lot higher than even that. It makes 3 spots in our region among the most out of whack when it comes to making rent on a minimum wage. Nassau County, it would take a $31 minimum wage to just afford an average rent, or someone working 155 hours at the current minimum wage. You go in Danbury in Connecticut, $30 plus an hour here, and you go to Stanford, it's roughly about the same thing as well, $30 an hour, okay? And we're talking working nearly 140 hours a week here. Silliness. All right, I want to bring in, and Dominic, there also was a companion report that said, you do this, people aren't going out of business, unemployment's not going to go any higher if you raise the minimum wage. The Pope and the president got together, they talked about income inequality. It's not coincidental that he's going to hit on this and bang on this drum. Is there a way to articulate this that not just the people on the lower end of the economic spectrum say, I'm with him, this is important?
Where you can affect the middle class and get the middle class. Yes, the way the president did today in Michigan. He is at his absolute best when he's away from Washington, out on the stump, talking to regular people. Today was one of his better speeches in recent memory, and I believe the minimum wage in Connecticut is now $10.10.
They think it's going to pass.
Okay, it's going up to that. Now, I know the arguments against it, but this is a way the Democrats, let's be honest, they're having a hard time in this midterm election.
Unemployment extensions,
that's right.
Food stamps, a whole bunch of stuff.
This is a way to connect. This is a way that whether you're poor or middle class, everyone can understand this argument and relate to it.
I actually think there might be another argument to it, which would be co-opting a Republican argument. This helps small business. You raise the minimum wage, it actually helps small business. You want to open a small
that's never going to sell.
You want to open a small business. You want to open a small business, you need customers. Where are your customers going to come from? You put more money in people's pockets, you're actually going to generate more customers.
If you started a small business, the capital that you need.
If you do that, no way. Republicans will produce small business owners to completely knock that out.
The funny part is, he's actually right. If you want to know who's going to spend the money, if you ever wanted to give it to somebody, you give it to somebody that has to spend it, right? It's not, you give it on the top end, they're not going to put it in they'll buy a CD or something.
But we're acting as if this is where these people are going to end up, and that's not the case. And Pew Research came out with a report that said over 50% of those that are making the minimum wage are between the ages of 16 and 18, and 78% of those are white men and women. So it is people working at McDonald's, but I worked a minimum wage job, and I started at one salary and worked my way up and worked my way up. That's how it works in America. It's not just about just giving somebody who maybe have no skill at all the keys to everything and say, here you go.
Wait, are we suggesting the keys to everything is $10 an hour? I don't know what you're driving. Okay,
it's a lot of money. But if you're working at your Big Mac's going to go up. Okay,
you have people that are middle aged, as you well know, working in McDonald's. Those are not kids. These are people trying to find a way to live, to survive.
And let's be honest, we built our middle class by giving working wages to people with muscle jobs. We don't have muscle jobs in this country anymore. We have consumer jobs. We have customer service jobs. So instead of the guy who was working at the auto plant whose job doesn't exist, or the guy who was working at the steel mill whose job doesn't exist anymore, if you convert that living wage to somebody who's working in the consumer industry, somebody who's working at a McDonald's, somebody who's working at a Walmart, you can restore the
You're
minimum
talking now. You're
wage.
saying living wage. We're talking about the minimum wage,
No,
which
I
is a lot different
I
than
understand,
the living
but
wage.
You got to start somewhere.
I agree. And these people that are maybe working at McDonald's,
Let me ask
I've
something.
seen them.
Somebody
They need
works
to
40
learn
hours
a
a
new
week,
trade.
okay?
Yes.
If somebody works 40 hours a week and they're making the minimum wage and they're living below the poverty line, something's wrong, right?
I agree with you. And
Okay.
what are we doing? We're giving them more benefits, unemployment, well, not unemployment, but we're giving them more,
Careful, you're drowning.
more benefits to be able to go out and provide for their family as far as buying food. There's an issue here, and we need to do is all those people that unfortunately can't be working in the manufacturing industry, we've got to help these people actually form a new trade. I mean, it's not just, the answer is not just giving them more stuff.
You do know job training has been cut in Washington, right? But the same guys who don't want to vote for
That's why I
minimum
believe in
wage.
states' rights.
There you go. Good, good. Hey, I asked these two guys, any chance, now that we hit 7.1 million instead of the 7 million target here, that Obamacare is not going to be an albatross around this president and this party in November, or no?
I think we're going to have to wait probably till next year when we actually find out who these people are. Are they people that already had health care? Are these people actually paying premiums? That number, while you may hear stuff back and forth, it's going to take a long time to process and know, and I don't think we're going to know that till next year. So.
All right. I'll let that be the last word. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Now, coming up next, Supreme Court lifts a ban on campaign giving. The ban's designed to fight corruption. Question is, are the justices pushing the political playing field forward, or are they holding it back? We're going to hear from our legal panel when we return.